Raise your hand if you want your nails to look perfect all the time. Me too. I'm Sarah Gibson-Tuttle from Olive & June, and this is exactly why we created the Mani system. We wanted to make it possible for everyone everywhere to give themselves a beautiful manicure at home. With our tools and our long-lasting polish, each manicure with our Mani system comes out to just $2. That's right, $2. No more $30, $40, $50 manis that you get at a salon and they take hours. Now you can paint your nails on your time and love them more than ever. And by the way, when people ask, who did your nails? Where did you get them done? You're going to proudly say, I did them myself. Get 20% off your first Mani system with code DIYNail20 at oliveandjune.com/DIYNail20. That's code DIYNail20 for 20% off at oliveandjune.com/DIYNail20.
Welcome to episode 276 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm James Whittingham. On August 20th, 2018, a young girl in Stockholm, Sweden, in a yellow raincoat and pigtails, rode her bike to the Swedish Parliament. It was a school day. Why go to school when there is no future, she declared.
Can you do it in English, maybe?
Yes. We kids don't usually do what you tell us to do. We do what you do. And because you adults don't give a damn about my future, I won't either.
Greta Thunberg, at 15 years old, instantly became the world's most recognizable climate activist, in no small part because she was a child.
We have not come here to beg world leaders to care. You have ignored us in the past and you will ignore us again. We have run out of excuses and we are running out of time. We have come here to let you know that change is coming, whether you like it or not.
As a child with her whole life ahead of her, she should have been optimistic about the future.
For more than 30 years, the science has been crystal clear. How dare you continue to look away and come here saying that you're doing enough when the politics and solutions needed are still nowhere in sight. You say you hear us and that you understand the urgency. But no matter how sad and angry I am, I do not want to believe that. Because if you really understood the situation and still kept on failing to act, then you would be evil, and that I refuse to believe.
Thunberg used moral urgency to hold institutions accountable and inspired global action. Her activism seemed fueled by her having a direct stake in the future of the planet. She spoke truth to power and created tangible public awareness. Across the Atlantic Ocean, in the middle of the North American plains, Kiké Dueck was a kindergartner exploring a bird book on a camping trip.
I had no idea who she was or even about the environmental movement at the time. I just fell in love with that book, Sibley Guide to Birds, 2nd edition.
Their parents kept most technology away from the child, so Kiké embraced reading. Dueck quickly became wise beyond their years. They lived in Saskatchewan, Canada, which was home to thousands of people with Ukrainian heritage.
We begin with what's been a devastating 24 hours in the Ukraine, which right now is under a continuing full-scale military assault from Russia.
When Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, Kiké was in 3rd grade. Their classmates held fence demonstrations every recess in support of Ukraine. Feelings of empowerment replaced feelings of helplessness, and she came to a realization.
That's why I was able to do action in the future. That's why it came to my mind.
In 2023, Kiké's provincial government passed Bill 137.
All those in favor say yea.
Yay! The Parents' Bill of Rights passed through the legislature Friday. It mandates school staff get parental permission before using a different name or gender expression for students under 16.
This affected Kiké directly as they identify as non-binary. Pride protests were organized at their school, and Kiké was at the forefront of the public outcry against the bill.
I wish I didn't have such a heavy burden on me all the time because, well, most of my friends are thinking about, I don't know, love and if they can get a higher grade. I'm doing so much things and it's really exhausting.
Dueck eventually came upon a book about teen climate activist Greta Thunberg, as well as other books on climate.
That summer, my climate anxiety had gotten a lot worse.
Their mom, Denny Fornwald, an early childhood educator at a public school, got a phone call at work saying 11-year-old Kiké did not show up for school that day. Fornwald told CBC News they felt sick to their stomach. Kiké left for school on their own, as they had many times before, yet was nowhere to be found. A frantic search for Kiké began. Friends, family, school staff, and later the police were all searching for the lost child. No one had any idea what had happened to them.
So I had actually been planning to do that for a little while because that summer, my climate anxiety had gotten a lot worse because I was learning more and it felt like I just couldn't do anything. And I really felt like I had to do something. And I read in a book that action was the best way to get out of that. And so I didn't know what to do. And after reading a book about Greta Thunberg, I wanted to try Fridays for Future. And so I made a sign. I printed pamphlets or flyers, I guess, all like in secret without my parents like noticing or realizing. And then on the first week of school, that first Friday, I had left for the legislature building when I was supposed to be walking to school.
Really?
On my bike. Yeah.
What time of year was this?
It was the first Friday of school.
Okay.
So, like, early September.
Okay. And you went off on your bike to school and you went to the legislature instead.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened there when you got there?
When I got there was these peace officers, and I talked with them for a little bit. And I ended up talking to, I think, more than 100 people. And I handed out most of my flyers. But now that I come to think of it, I'm surprised that no one asked if if my parents knew where I was. And I kind of expected them to know where I was, and I kind of expected them to find me before the time that they found me. And I was going to go back at lunch no matter, because I was worried that they weren't finding me. And I thought that it was almost evident my climate anxiety, but they didn't know. And that was surprising for me.
How did you expect them to know?
I don't know. It had been such a large and important and hard part of my life for the last 2 months. And even though I didn't talk to them, I expected they would have seen what I was reading, what I was feeling, and how it affected me day to day.
What kind of people did you encounter? Were they just going for walks? Were they politicians going into the legislature? What were those people like?
I met 2 politicians from a local Democratic Party, and they were really nice. One conversation that really stood out to me is these tourists from Europe. They were coming to the legislature building because it's really pretty. But when they saw me, they didn't have to ask what I was doing. They knew it from Europe, but they asked, where was everyone else? Yeah. And I said, I'm the only one. And there hasn't been a movement here since 2019, before COVID.
I'm going to play a clip of Greta in 2018 in Poland. But you were very young then. You were only in kindergarten about?
I had no idea who she was or even about the environmental movement at the time. I wasn't even like a naturalist up until the start of COVID.
Right.
I didn't know at all about the movement.
You are not mature enough to tell it like it is. Even that burden you leave to us children.
Yeah, I can relate to that. When I've talked to local politicians, a lot of the time they've listened and they've suggested their plans and they're reinforcing that. But when I speak to them, it seems like there's little to no difference. And that they won't tell it as it is, and that they're just trying to make it seem like they're being environmental friendly, even though in reality they're really not. And that's really hard.
Do you feel like there's enough concern in our society about climate change, and maybe the politicians would listen if there was more concern?
I find that a lot of people are concerned, but a lot of them don't know how to act, and they're scared to bring it up because a lot of the time politicians won't listen. And I think there needs to be more concern because it is a crisis. But I also think that there's more people who are worried about climate change than is seen a lot of the time.
How old were you then when you became a naturalist, when you started to think about the outdoors?
I think I was in kindergarten at the time, but I think the most important moment around then is when I first got given a bird book. I got hooked onto it because it had maps. I really liked maps. But then I read it for 4 hours, and I was a kindergartner, and we were on a camping trip, and there were so many more exciting things to do. But I ended up reading that almost all day until it was my bedtime. And I just fell in love with that book, Sibley Guide to Birds, 2nd edition. And I still have it, actually. But yeah, and then I woke up to just birds and all the things around me, and my eyes were trained to see them, and I still see them all the time. And then once the COVID-19 pandemic had started, another important experience for me was I was going on a walk in the woods, and I found these small little mushrooms that most people wouldn't have noticed. And I picked them up with my family, and I didn't know what they were. And so my mom posted them online, and immediately we got a ton of responses because they happen to be morel mushrooms, which are really expensive and super highly prized. And we actually ended up eating them, and they were absolutely delicious. And it really ignited my love for mushrooms, and I still do. And I've eaten more than 10 species in a lot of the time, and that's really great.
So it sounds like you grew up in an outdoorsy family, right?
I mean, I read a lot of the time, and I still really do, because we didn't have a ton of technology that I used. And because of that, I wanted to learn about everything. Yeah, I understood that nature was under attack, but it never felt that urgent until I really learned about climate change. And that was kind of at the end of the pandemic. I was 9 years old, and there was this book series that I loved, and I still do love it, Who HQ, and it was a book about Greta Thunberg. And in the past, I had seen books about climate change, but I was too scared to read them because it seemed like such a big and insurmountable problem, and I didn't think about it much because I was just scared. But when I read that book, I saw that action was being taken, and that made me want to learn more about climate change, which eventually led to me taking action myself.
A lot of times when I talk to young people about climate anxiety, it comes from school.
If I hadn't read about climate change and learned a lot about climate change, I wouldn't have learned about the problem until grade 7, until grade 6, which was this year. I feel like that's a lot later than it should have been, but I also talked a lot about it to my classmates.
Speaking of your classmates, are you alone in your anxiety over climate, or do you get it from other kids too? Are you sensing that other kids have the same concerns as you in some level?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the kids at my school are really concerned about climate change and other core problems like equality. And I founded an environmental club, Youth for Climate Action, at my school with some other people. And that was really great. So I think other people understand and have climate anxiety, but probably not to the level that I had.
Is there some days that you just wish that you were like the type of kid that just goes about their life and isn't aware of the problems in the world?
Yes, very much. And a lot of the time I feel like so different from everyone else. I think so differently, and it's hard for other people to kind of understand me. And I wish I didn't have such a heavy burden on me all the time, because, well, most of my friends are thinking about, I don't know, love and if they can get a higher grade in math this year or something. I'm doing so much things and it's really exhausting. Like on back to school night, which was yesterday, I had to run home because I had to be in a webinar about climate change. And I feel like that's powerful, but also I kind of wish I was more ignorant of it. But some other times I feel like it's almost a gift to know about these crises. Otherwise, like battling climate change gives me something to do and dedicate my time to. And I feel like I'm making a big difference. And that's something that a lot of kids in my grade that I've seen feel like they're not able to do.
Do you feel sort of special because you are beyond your years right now? You're dealing with adult things as a 12-year-old?
Yeah. I mean, not necessarily special, but I'm almost burdened with that I'm the youngest person at everything. Like, even when I spoke at that webinar that I talked about, I was the youngest person listening and I was also presenting there. And at climate conferences, I'm generally by far the youngest person. And I feel like I wish that more people my age were involved like in activism and especially climate activism. But really, I got involved in activism through people my age and at my school. Because when war first got declared between Ukraine and Russia, the grade 3s at my school, which I was one of them at the time, we decided to do a fence side protest, and every recess we would go out there with signs and we'd protest war in Ukraine and we wanted peace for them. And then that was amazing. And I wasn't involved in organizing it, but that's why I was able to do action in the future. That's why it came to my mind. And we did it on other things as well. And the reason that that's no longer happening is because Bill 137, which is a bill like kind of against trans rights, which affected me at schools, we protested that with a pride protest, and that got shut down by the school because some parents might not agree with that and might think it was by the school. But we did that for, I think, 2 or 3 years. And that was really important and made us feel like we were making a difference. Something that was really powerful for us is that someone who had recently came as a refugee from Ukraine texted our school and said, "Thank you for doing this. It's amazing. It gave me hope." And that was something that made me feel powerful and made the people around me also feel really happy. I feel like I wish that more people my age were involved in activism.
But you started early. Do you think maybe the future you in high school will have all that much more experience and can be a leader in this because you've started so early?
Mm-hmm. I really hope so. And I'm glad that I was able to come and realize the climate crisis earlier. And I hope that I can encourage other people to do something like this. I'm early and no one else my age is doing this, or so it seems. And even the people who are doing this are generally in their mid to late teens. And I don't know why I started early, but I really hope that it will help me be able to make a difference now and in the future. Because if we don't take action now, then there's really no other time, even in the short-term future.
Yeah. How many people are in the club at school?
Well, it depends on the day, but 20 regular people who show up every time.
That's pretty significant.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that passion spreading to other kids? Occasionally another kid comes and because other people are doing it?
Mm-hmm. I feel like some people at my climate club will become real environmental activists, and that people from throughout the school are noticing the difference because we're planting a garden, we're collecting signatures on a petition, we're doing a lot of things. And I feel like other youth and kids are noticing, and I hope that people will be inspired to take action from a younger age as well, because the way that adults think, like the younger the people who get involved in climate activism, the more they'll take it seriously. Not oh, it's just a thing that teens do, they're rebellious and stuff. But when people younger and younger are involved in things like this, I hope that adults will actually listen.
I'm old enough to see that the climate has changed, unfortunately. I didn't expect it to. We were told it would be mid-century, and now we have wildfire smoke every day. How is that affecting you?
I'm old enough to see that the climate has changed, and that makes me really sad because I don't want to be seeing runaway climate change during my lifetime, and I'm going to be experiencing the future, and I don't want the future to be a catastrophe or drastically harder to live in. But that feels like the course that we're heading towards. And I just hope that we can come to our senses in time, even though I'm not sure we will be able to.
How do you feel about your province these days when it comes to climate?
I feel like they're not going to listen, and I've seen that they won't listen to me talking to them outright, because I got signatures on a petition. Me and some other youth from the Climate Club, we talked to the Minister of the Environment, and we haven't seen any change from that. Even though he did acknowledge what we thought, we disagreed a lot. And I did a letter writing campaign. I haven't gotten an answer on that yet. I've organized climate strikes that are bigger than just me, almost 100 people. And I haven't seen action from them. And right now I'm actually in a court case against the provincial government.
The Saskatchewan Environmental Society and its allies are taking the provincial government to court in a bid to stop the province's plan to extend coal power past 2030. The suit asks for a judicial review of the province's decision and an interim stay to halt further action until a ruling is made.
We're just insisting that the government not spend hundreds of millions of dollars refurbishing coal-fired power plants when they know it's against federal law.
Federal clean electricity regulations require all conventional coal plants to shut down by 2030, but Saskatchewan is planning to run them until 2050.
I hope that will force them to act, because right now it doesn't seem like they're going to. And I hope that through the court, when they're forced to act, they actually will.
Is that the way to go? Because it kind of seems that way sometimes. Do you feel optimistic about it?
I mean, in a lot of governments, it's not necessary to take them to court, but with some governments that just won't take significant action, even if you try really hard, going to court is the ideal strategy, and it's what can be done to make them take action, because you can't just deny the court, even though some governments have tried. You just can't. It's final, and I hope that will get governments to take action.
So we have 40% of our electricity here comes from coal, and we have a really good wind and solar resource here. There's countries that I've compared on the podcast, like the Netherlands, that is like 30% of their power's from solar, and they have far worse solar potential than we do, because they're cloudier than we are, but they're around the same latitude on the planet, the same sort of seasonality to it. Mm-hmm. And we don't do it here. Why do you think our governments refuse to embrace renewables?
Because apparently it's easier, even though it's not. There's so many arguments against that. I mean, maybe one of the reasons is voters, but I doubt that. The court case that I'm in, because our provincial government violated federal law and said, too bad, we're keeping coal till 2050, even though they have to only keep coal to 2030. And they're renovating these coal places and keeping them online, and that's costing millions of dollars and almost $1 billion. And they're probably going to have to shut down these things anyways. The argument that I've seen a lot is the sun's not always shining and the wind's not always blowing. So we need baseline energy. But battery capacity, those work. Different types of batteries, like gravitational batteries, where it's totally different. These all work really well. And people use less power during the night, and it's a lot cheaper. And you'll save so much money. And the current goal is to transition coal directly to nuclear with no other renewables, because it's got baseline power. And that's just because they want to stay and they don't want to make changes. But I think that's necessary. And we have great solar potential. Wind's always blowing. it would be an amazing step, and it makes more sense. I don't understand why the governments aren't acting, because it makes less sense to be on coal than it makes to be on renewable energies. It's not logical, and I don't understand why they're acting like that.
They haven't come out and publicly denied climate change. Do you believe, though, that they actually believe in climate change?
I know that they know that climate change is real, because otherwise they'd be denying science, and I know that I hope that they don't do that, but I really don't understand the actions they're taking right now. It doesn't make sense not to believe in climate change, and if you believe in climate change, it doesn't make sense not to take action. And so I'm not sure what they're doing right now. And I don't know, that's just kind of disappointing. They have a climate plan. It's called Prairie Resilience. But really, I feel like the way that they're thinking about it is that we're tiny. We have a slow population. Our emissions barely make a difference. Our goal needs to be on resilience, and resilience can be a part of that. But Saskatchewan has a super high GHG emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, like higher than the province of Quebec. And it's higher than, we have the highest GHG emissions per capita of any province in all of Canada, and higher than any average in any country in all of the world. And that's outrageous.
Your parents have prevented you from going on social media. I can't blame them for that. Are you exposed to the cynicism from Saskatchewanians?
I have seen people with cynical views, and I understand that. I'm not on social media because my parents don't allow that, but I'm fine with that. And I honestly think that if I was, I would be receiving more negativity. People can be cynical, and I can understand that they did that with COVID. That happened with pretty much, people denied any change in pretty much all of history. And so that's bound to happen, but it still makes very little sense. And I've seen people in Saskatchewan who aren't believing in climate change, even though it's very, very, very obviously existent. And I don't know. I just wish they would take into account facts.
The rural municipalities government, the people who speak for the governments in the rural areas, I remember them coming out last summer and saying, well, nothing seems different to me. We had droughts before. Everything seems the same. My solar panels on my roof don't even work as well because it's a feedback loop of smoke, making less green energy. I find our summers are getting kind of wrecked now by climate change, and it couldn't be more obvious. I don't see do you need clouds of locusts, and what do you need to be convinced that climate change is happening?
Well, the local locust has already gone extinct because of climate change and other causes like that. And I receive headaches from the smoke all the time. And ironically, on the day in my school that we were doing this letter writing campaign to the Ministry of the Environment, the air quality was the worst it could be. And we couldn't go outside, and the school downs in the gym was canceled because there was too much smoke in the gym inside. And I just think that's terrible. And I couldn't be anywhere except for this one class in the entire school that somehow managed to keep the smoke out. And that really sucked. And that really sucked for everyone. And kids in my class with asthma especially were affected. I feel like the effects of climate change are so visible that denying them just feels impossible. I don't understand the people who deny that.
If you thought much about your future as a climate activist at all, do you see yourself continuing the fight through your teens, for example?
Yeah, I expect to, unless all the governments have a magic revelation and decide, you know what, let's listen to facts. But I don't wish to, but I probably will anyways, because I want to be experiencing a nice future where I can live in the in near nature, near a forest, or in open prairie that's wild. But yeah, I probably will continue doing activism for the rest of my life unless major changes are made. And I just really hope that I can make a big enough difference that at least one or two governments will take the problem seriously and make a noticeable and sizable difference.
Yeah. Well, you're very good at it. You're astounding for a 12-year-old with your communication skills and your passion, which I appreciate. Thank you so much, Kiké. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you all the luck, and I hope to bump into you again and have you on the show again sometime in the future.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much.
We all know that feeling. You finally manage to get away on vacation and the worrying starts. Will that bogus "beware of dogs" sign keep your home safe? What about that fake camera you set up? And will someone finally find your old hide and key rock? That's where ADT comes in. All that stuff, it's safe-ish. It seems fine when you don't really think about it, but you know it truly doesn't work. Instead, ADT provides security solutions that keep you actually safe, giving you real peace of mind. Because vacation is supposed to be, relaxing. Don't settle for safe-ish. Visit ADT.com today to learn more.
Thank you for listening. It's been quite a perspective to listen to a 12-year-old, particularly this one, who is obviously smarter than all of us. Reach out to us at cleanenergyshow@gmail.com. That's our email, cleanenergyshow, all one word, @gmail.com. Brian and I will be back later this week with our Patreon episode and back next week with a normal show to kick off our fall season. We'll see you then.